Hey everyone, Emily here. Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to offer a simple content warning. Lauryn shares her journey and the story of her stillborn son, Ben. While I do hope you will join us, my hope is to give you this information so that you can make your own decision around consuming this podcast content. So with that, let's get started. Welcome to the Project Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Gorey, mom of a sweet baby girl and an ever-evolving entrepreneur. On this show, we will explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. We will share stories of moms just like you and me with the goal of fostering community and comfort in knowing that we are not alone in our experiences. Please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to ensure you get all the updated episodes and releases. Welcome to today's episode of the Project Mom Podcast. I am so excited because I am connecting with Lauryn Laszczak this week, and Lauryn describes herself as a serial entrepreneur. She is a somatic business coach who guides female founders into a deeper exploration of themselves and the impact that they're capable of having through their business. She co-founded a retreat community to help those female entrepreneurs heal their relationships with themselves. She's also co-founded Meadows Realty Group with her husband, if I got that correct, and Detroit Mobile Bar, a wedding mobile bar and bartending service. On the home front, Lauryn is a mom to her 2 daughters and 1 angel son and is married to her high school sweetheart. So Lauryn, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me, Emily. This is so nice. You did such a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I have some notes on the side.
It's a lot to handle sometimes.
It is. I feel like my mind gets kind of wrapped up in everything. And it's funny because when I initially drafted out a outline for this conversation with you, I got swept up in all of that, all of those amazing businesses and things that you offer to this world. And I find that we'll probably get to those, right? As we talk about your journey and your personal growth, these businesses and ideas come out of that. So I think it's probably best for us to maybe start with that journey, and then we will be able to touch on all of the wonderful things that you've created from those places of inspiration. So I'm just going to toss it over to you, and I'd love if you could just share with us your history and your journey through motherhood and entrepreneurship.
Okay. So this was actually really fun to think about before we jumped on. I was like, okay, let's take a moment to sit with, the weaving together.
Yeah.
Because they can feel so separate. And when I looked at that, I was kind of laughing because they are so not separate at all. It seems like everything was kind of one and then the other, or one and then the other.
Yeah.
And so really, I feel like my journey began, I became an entrepreneur back in 2010.
Okay.
And at that time, I was actually a photographer. I was in the real estate world and going to a job, a 9-to-5, and feeling like I can't do this forever. And like, what is my passion? Just at that time was like when Instagram and everything was just starting. And it was really fun to watch these women start blogging and doing all of these really creative things. And I was just sitting in this gray office in this gray cubicle, staring at this gray computer. And I just had a moment where I was like, all right, Laura, we got to take the reins here. So I ended up starting my photography business. And I did that for quite a while until I happened upon, I should say I did that while I grew my blog, and that helped me get some graphic design skills. And it was just really the beginning of like really being immersed into my creative self. And so while that was happening, I just happened to come along a job offering for a luxury event planning company. And so I took that leap and still had my gig, like my side gig. And it was so fun. It was actually a huge part of what I do today within my coaching, being able to have led the entire branding department. So anything creative there was something that I birthed into life and like made it happen. I had just gotten that job And about a month later, surprise, I was pregnant with my first Olivia. So it was quite a shock. It was like, oh my gosh, I got my side gig. I just got my dream job. And now I'm becoming a mother.
Yeah.
And that was like, okay, we can do this. And so fast forward almost 3 years. And within that span, my husband and I had also started a real estate business. So I was like doing photography, had my event planning gig, and was doing some real estate with my husband, actually very reluctantly. I didn't necessarily want to.
Okay.
But I was like, okay, sure. Well, I'll help you out with this thing. And so I became pregnant with my second. She was planned, Gwen. And just before I was due with her, my boss of almost 3 years shared that, she no longer wanted to have that business. So it was kind of like overnight, I was thrust into the world of like, you're on your own. There's no longer this position for you to return to. And I remember coming home and sitting on the couch with my husband and being like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because up until this point, and we had money coming in from my business, from our business together, from his day job, but that was really a huge part of what we had created together. Yeah. So that was interesting to navigate.
So it's not, Lauryn, like I'm listening to you and both of your daughter's births coincide with big changes professionally, right? So your first daughter being a surprise regardless was at the time that you took on this job. And then your second daughter was at the time where this job was no longer part of your security.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Perfect.
Right? That's wild how this happens.
Divine timing. Divine timing that now I can see. And it was such a gift, like especially with Gwen, it was such a gift. It was like she opened up the cage and like just was like, you're free.
Yep.
Because up until that point, I had a business, but I wasn't bold enough to take it on my own and to really trust that I could provide for myself without having something to lean back on.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, but it was the greatest gift because once that happened, I was all in. I was like, okay, real estate, which I thought was going to be like just me helping my husband, some fun money on the side. It became the gig.
Yep.
And interestingly enough, once that was happening, I started speaking directly to women and women about entrepreneurship and really just started kind of creating from that inspirational place of like, if I can do it, you can do it. And I quickly found myself getting excited about this idea of empowering women. And I started to do that. I started to lean into speaking gigs and hosting events. I created a podcast. I started a book club. I had my own live event. I was just all in for this empowering of women. And meanwhile, I will say in there again, my husband and I and our two crazy friends decided, hey, why don't we start this mobile bar? So at this point, we got the two businesses. I was like maybe doing a little photography here and there, but that was pretty much settling, it wasn't really happening as much. It was really all becoming a part of almost like just my tools. It was all a part of my tools. Every single step just became something else that it could strengthen the ability that I had as a coach, as an entrepreneur. So it was like everything I had, photography, branding, event planning, it was all coming into play into my coaching, into my work in the world.
Yeah. I love that. I just want to reiterate it because I imagine some of the women that are listening to this, there's almost a weight of, okay, now I'm in motherhood. What is this time in my life going to afford me on the personal career front? And it's so true when you say these are all just tools that you can take with you and strengthen into the next phase, whatever door gets, iteration of your journey
of you
presents itself next. Yeah. It's quite beautiful when you think about it that way and hopefully not so overwhelming when you can just kind of settle and trust that everything's working towards a larger goal.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times for my clients who are making that shift from maybe pure motherhood to having a side hustle to taking that to a full-time gig, et cetera, that's always a fear of sort of like, oh, as I grow into this version of me, I have to let that version of me go. And it's just not true. I mean, it's a continual evolution. Every single thing that you've done along the way is just a helping hand.
Yeah.
And I even look back to like my college days. I mean, I actually went to school for theater. And I did act for a while, but now I don't look back and say, why did I do that? Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a better speaker for it. It's so easy for me to get on an Instagram live.
Yeah.
I don't feel scared in those ways because that was a part of the journey that I needed for this, not even to be an actor, you know?
Yeah.
So we don't leave any of that behind. It's all something that we get to take with us and lean upon, and it builds up our resume of confidence.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, that's such a beautiful way to look at it. So when you think back to the journey that you had, and particularly I'm referencing the time in which your first daughter was born and up until when your second daughter was born, you had mentioned, right, with your theater background, some of those limiting beliefs or fears weren't there. But what were some of those maybe perceived challenges that you had or fears that you did have with maybe your surprise pregnancy or leaving this job? Were there any kind of narratives that were coming into play for you as you were going through those phases?
I think the biggest one for me, every time I evolve, is always, or every time I've had another child, is that I'm going to lose another part of myself. You know, it's like motherhood is so beautiful, and it's a constant grieving process.
Yeah.
You're consistently saying goodbye to a version of you that you were. And then you wonder, do I have the energy? Do I have the time? Do I have the capacity for something that I feel my heart is calling? You know, like I feel that call on my heart. And I also have these other little hearts that I have to tend to.
Yeah.
And so how will I ever have space for both? That always felt scary for me, at least for a good portion of time.
Yeah.
But I've honestly found that, which I know you have one child, Emily, but those who have a couple, it's kind of the feeling of like, when I have my second, how will I love them as much as I loved the first?
Yeah.
Like, how is it possible? And then you do, and you realize that your heart is so expansive that there's always room for more. And that's honestly how I feel in my entrepreneurial journey in relationship to motherhood too, is like, I no longer villainize this idea of balance, like, oh, I have to have all of these things in the air and how will I tend to everything? I just don't do that anymore. Now I'm like, okay, everything I'm doing are all parts of me expressed. And so if I'm going to live into the fullest version of myself as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend, as a leader, as a coach, I have to build the capacity for all of it. So just like your heart expands with your children, it can expand in the exact same way for your passions and your priorities. And that has been such a large part of who I am. And so I think I was so scared for so long that I was going to lose her. And really, we just strengthened her. Like, she's just stronger than she ever was, because that's what children do for us. They show us how freaking strong we are.
Yeah. It's really quite miraculous when you think about it in terms of the expansion that we have as women when we become mothers, and then really continue to also prioritize ourselves. And I think the biggest thing for me is getting clear on that. It's like for me to take the time to step away, right? And not try to balance everything, but allow myself to have some capacity to take on some projects that light me up and align with some personal goals was important for me to find some clarity on what those were, right? It's like everything shifts. And for me in particular, the first year of my daughter's life was very challenging. So everything was very tunnel vision. It was very difficult for me to find capacity for other things other than just really surviving in a lot of those moments. So in terms of your experience, like, how did you find some clarity on what you wanted to welcome in? Was it divine intervention? Opportunities were presented to you and you took advantage of them? Or was there a lot of exploration for you as well?
Definitely a lot of exploration. And also, I really believe that action leads to intention.
Yeah.
Action for me is always the first step. I would say I'm more the human that jumps before checking the net is there. But
Okay.
I really feel like you have to do that,
Yeah.
at least little by little, because every time I've tried something new, I've received more clarity around it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you look at the trajectory that I was just sharing with you, I mean, I thought I was going to be an actor. And then really the reason why I stopped was because I was so sick of going to auditions and getting no's. And maybe it's the Taurus in me, but I just was at the point where I was like, no one is going to tell me no when it's something I really desire. And that didn't feel okay with me. Like I kind of wanted to be more so the person that got to give the yes. And so the next action for me was like, well, what do I do with that creative part of myself? And I think a lot of times as mothers, we place that part of us on a shelf. Or even better, we take that part of us and we put it into a box and we wrap it up really, really pretty, like a really nice gift. And we set it on the shelf because you're like, it's so pretty, I can't open it, And really like that creative part of you, she wants out. Like she's meant to be in her art. And that's the way that I look at my work in the world. Like it's my art. Like trust me, I can't draw, but I would consider myself an artist, like at heart. And we do that a lot of times as moms. Like we think it's okay to set it aside until our child's this age or until they start school, or actually now I'm helping them outside of, in the school, or now I got to drive them to things. And we put ourselves on the back burner. Yeah. When in reality, when we are in our most creative, our most expressed self, we are the most beautiful role model for our children. And isn't that what we do it for in the first place? So that we can be there to guide them, to show them what's possible. And so to go back to that original question, I mean, just that of being like, okay, what's the next action as a creative person? Oh, photography. I've always loved taking photos. Then you get into photography. Oh, I do love this creative part, but I also really miss this part of me. Then I would try something else, leading to something else, leading to something else. And I don't think there's ever a completion on this. I think that's the thing I'm reminded of constantly is even right now, being this coach, this guide, this retreat host, all the things, I'm still over here like, all right, universe, like, what's next? Like, what's the action I need to take? I wake up almost every day. This has actually been maybe a newer habit of mine or ritual, I would say. I don't really believe in morning routines, but I do have a lot of rituals. And one of which is like, I just say out loud, God, universe, source, what would you have me do today? Like, who would you have me speak to? Who would you have me meet? And I really put that out there constantly. And I find that in the smallest of ways, if I'm led to go get a smoothie, I run into someone or something or have some kind of conversation that leads me to like the next part of my destiny. And that is all action taking.
Yeah. I mean, fully incredible. I do think like you can't quite know unless you try. Right. And it's like until you try, until you take some actions, you don't actually know what path you're supposed to take. And I love that intention that you have for the day of saying, where does this day take me? Where will this lead me? I'd love to just ask you right now for the women that are listening who are maybe unsure of where to begin. Is it as simple as when you're out at the store, if you run into somebody at the smoothie shop, you just strike up a conversation? Or do we pick up hobbies? Where do we start taking these actions to uncover some clarity for ourselves?
Yeah. I would probably begin by paying attention to what lights you up. Like what gets you excited?
Yeah.
When you're doing it, when you're listening to it, when you're anything, you feel that little flicker inside of you that you want more of. Here's a great example. I, for the longest time, have felt so called to Italy. I don't know. It's just been something inside of me. Maybe I lived there in a past life. I'm not sure. But like, it's just always been my place that I'm like, I want to go. And so that little flicker tells me something. And so just from that, I might go get a fiction book that's based in Italy, right? And then I just devour that. I get so excited about it. And then that makes me feel like maybe I should learn some Italian. And now I'm over here learning Italian and planning a trip.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't even have to be in your business. It could just be also in your living. Like, what are you doing that just gets you a little excited, or gets you nervous or gets you scared? Any of those indicators where you're sort of pulled, where you feel your body create the movement or the sensation, I would follow that. And the thing I tell my clients so frequently is it does not have to make sense, because we want to make sense of everything. We want to really use the mind. We want to be smart, especially if we're spending time away from our little ones or hiring help. Like, we really want to make everything make total sense.
Yeah.
But what I would shoot for instead, especially in the beginning, is sensation. So not sense, sensation, like a feeling in your body, your innate wisdom. Like, let it guide you. Listen to her. What does she want from you next? And then that's when you take the action. And sometimes you're like, oh, Italian is no fun to learn. Or maybe I don't really want to go there, and it's okay. This is how we learn. This is how we know. This is how we gain more information about ourselves.
Yeah.
I would start there. I mean, I've found that to be the best indicator. I think it's just all internal. Like, you already have the answers.
Yeah. I think what's really nice about that too is that there's not a lot of pressure. So I think about the women who are listening who are perhaps not in the right situation to follow a spark or an inspiration from a career perspective because of the financial burdens of bills and having to take care of a little one and having to make sure that that financial security exists. But you can do that on a personal front, right? If it's just following a little bit of a spark for a hobby, right? Learning a language, reading a book placed in a setting in a certain location, to then take those actions that hopefully don't run much risk, right? In terms of finding where your heart's desires lie. And then allowing those doors to open, and then perhaps providing a little bit more clarity and inspiration in other parts of their lives as well. So it feels so doable in parts of our lives that already exist.
Yeah, I think it is. And I believe for the woman listening, that's like, but I want to take the risk. When you just have that calling inside of you or that feeling. I mean, I always felt like this even as a little girl. Like, I always felt like I was here to create something really impactful. Did you ever have that feeling, Emily?
Yeah,
like,
I have.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what was said to me when I said that after, but
what? Tell me.
Well, I've actually had I wanted to be a social worker when I was in college. I was like, I'm going to go, I want to be with people who are, experiencing challenging times in their lives. I want to be this person of support. And I was basically told, not in these words, but you're too emotional. You can't handle it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll start a nonprofit. You need money to help people. So I kept driving myself into a channel that wasn't fulfilling what I was looking for because I needed to make money. So that calling to create something big just kept getting put on the side burner for something I thought I should do in order to do that later.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, right? It's like
so much sense.
I'm like, oh,
I hear it
and
all
now
the
I'm
time.
like, oh my God, no, you just got to start, right? It's like, just start taking some action.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a beautiful place to start, is to really look at what your story is. Like, what is my story? Why do I feel this way? Oh, because I expressed this desire as a child. And then my uncle, twice removed, told me I couldn't do that, and then somehow that like set into my story, my being, and I'm still carrying that. I mean, even looking at those stories, I had a really hard story that I worked through in real time, which was before having my third child. I actually at that time had just for the first time started working with a mentor at a high level.
Okay.
So I was at the place in all of our businesses, running my coaching business and creating these live events and things like that, where I was like, okay, I think I really need some hand-holding support here. We can only do so much alone.
Yeah.
And I didn't honestly have a community of entrepreneurial mothers around me. So having someone who was doing like walking the walk and talking the talk while mothering felt so safe. And so when I started to do this work, I realized, wow, I have this story that as soon as I get successful, as soon as I start doing what I love and seeing the fruits of my labor, something bad will happen. And I unconsciously picked up that story from my father's story, which was that he was an entrepreneur and loved, he was such a born entrepreneur. It's truly where I got it from. He gifted me the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, so old school, like when I was 5,
Yeah.
So, I was a born entrepreneur, but he had great successes, but he also had great failures. And I carried that story with me. And when I realized it and I did the work to release it, that was when things started really getting good.
Yeah.
And I started to see everything that I had envisioned, the way that I saw myself impacting other women, the way that I wanted income to flow into my life to support my family. I started to see that happening. And as soon as that happened, I realized I was pregnant with my third, Ben. And at 32 weeks, I ended up giving birth to my stillborn son, Ben.
Yeah.
And it was, for me, that moment of what then seemed like confirmation. I was right. As soon as things get good, as soon as I see success, something bad will happen. And so that was 3 years ago. So I've been working through that healing journey myself. And honestly, working through that story again, because I see that story come up in so many ways, Emily. And that was obviously the biggest, hardest example of like, okay, like I'm going to have to overcome this story again.
Yeah.
But even in little ways, I see it pop up for me all the time. So it's like I continually have to work on rewriting my stories over and over and over again, which means we have to be really conscious about them. And if you're walking around and you're not conscious of them at all and you're letting them run your life, that's a heavy, heavy load to bear. It's interesting how I feel like for the most part, the women that I work with, entrepreneurial or not, I actually have some clients where we just work. They're just somatic clients, which means I'm just helping them regulate their nervous system so that they can handle life at a different level than they were before. We got to do this big work.
Yeah. So would you say that the somatic piece of your business, of this puzzle that is all of your toolbox, would you say that that came into play primarily after the birth of your son and the work that you're doing to overcome kind of this story that keeps integrating back in?
Yeah, 100%. So I will say somatic business coach, holistic business coach.
Yeah.
It's, really whatever you want to call me, I'll answer. It's like, if you need some help, I just want to guide you.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Because what I had realized was I was very connected to my purpose during that time that I was pregnant with Ben, but I was very disconnected to my body. And I spent a good period of time after his loss shaming and guilting myself over that and really finding the truth of what that meant. Obviously I wasn't disconnected to the point where I wasn't tending to myself or caring for myself in an appropriate way. It's none of that, which is so crazy as moms that we want to go straight there, right? Like we didn't do enough. We just weren't enough. I think that's the best way to say it. And it's just never the truth. We are always enough. But what it did show me was how quickly I was moving through life and how disconnected I was. And so it dropped me into pure presence in a way that I didn't at all want to do the work. I think that's truly what I help my clients do now. Is if I could put it all into like one sentence of what I help my clients do, it's I just help them trust themselves again.
Yeah.
And a large part of that is feeling connected to your body. And we just have so many reasons throughout our day to disconnect so quickly. Yeah. We don't even have to list them here. I'm sure they're all just like coming to mind because you're just like, oh yeah, I'm barely listening to this right now because I'm listening and driving or texting. It's like we always have a way out of our bodies. And so, that was my wake up call. And also it was in the best way possible. It reminded me how much I do love myself, my body, my home, and how I really, even before Ben, like I didn't connect with it in a way that I do now, like in little ways of, I don't want to say self-hatred, but the things we do as women, right? Like just not fully owning our bodies as they are and
the
shaming
comparison
ourselves,
game.
comparison, all of it. And so it was absolutely that wake-up call. And now I feel like it's all presence work. It's all intuition. It's trust. It's aliveness, like really feeling alive here, like in this one body that we have. That is such a freaking gift, because even then, I wish I had my son on this earth, but my body was protecting me.
Yeah.
And so, man, that's some deep trust right there.
Yeah. I mean, the growth that you would have had to go through to get to this stage feels, I imagine, for a lot of women, very overwhelming, very almost impossible, right? To go from point A to a place where we do trust ourselves. We trust this body that has been given to us to walk us through this life, to navigate what comes our way because it's meant for us. To have some of that blind trust is terrifying, that it's almost out of our control.
I was just going to say,
for a lot of women, that's so hard.
Yeah.
For me, it's really hard. I mean, when you're trying to balance so many things, right, is probably the experience that you had. It was like life was moving so fast. You were juggling a million things, and you get to a point where you have to have blind trust and you're out of control.
Yeah. Two things that come to mind when you say that. Number one is I really made myself believe that after his loss, like you had too many balls in the air. And But the truth is, now, 3 years later, I have just as many balls, if not more, and I'm so much more present. And I'm so much more in tune with the intention behind everything that I do, that it's actually twice as easy. So that is fascinating, because we want to find a reason. That's what that is. Again, that is control. Like, let me find a reason that this happened. If I just knew why, if I could just blame it on something or someone or something I ate or this particular thing I lifted up. You know, it's so wild that our brains want to do that. But again, that's just control. And at the end of the day, when we release all control is when the most beautiful things unfold in our lives. Because I had no control over his loss, but I also had no idea that his soul would have such a large mission that I would have the capacity to embody it now.
Yeah.
And so when I think in the physical about me not having a child in my arms, it's so limiting, because in my body and in my heart and in my greatest knowing, he's with me every moment, guiding my every step. Some of the things I do now, I almost feel like it's not even my work in the world. It's his. And so how could I have ever controlled that anyway?
Yeah.
I could have never planned this in a million years. And sometimes I got to remind my clients of that. Like, they really want to understand, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, like, how to get from A to B, or how to make this happen, or how to launch this perfectly, or how to share with my husband that I want to spend this money on this investment. I mean, there's so many examples.
Yeah.
And I remind them, like, I don't know. How did you know that you would get this chair that you're sitting in? Like, how did you know the color of the walls that are in your office right now? How did you know, Emily, that you and I would be sitting here having this conversation? Like, we don't. We don't know these things. We can't control these things. We couldn't plan them if we tried. I never in a million years could have imagined I would meet my husband at 15 years old at like a movie theater. And here we are almost 20 years later. And the things that we've created together, I could have not named one of these things.
Yeah.
And yet you always have to hold it in your heart before you can hold it in your hand.
Yeah.
So stop trying to control it with the physical. Like, stop trying to grasp and hold all of these things so tightly. hold it in your heart and watch it unfold, but don't grasp it in your hands. Like that is God's work. That's the work of the universe, of source. Like when you let that go, when you release that amount of control, it's literally like letting your hair down. Like it feels so good. And the most amazing part of that is when we live from that place, from this energetic, this frequency, that's when you can create and dream and plan and launch and share and impact other people, because that's the frequency that other people receive.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the level that we have to be at in order to be the absolute most amazing mother I can be, or have the greatest impact I can have outside my house. And just to bring it back in like a little loop here, I really believe like we do all of that for what's here in this home. And we impact people and their hearts, and so that they'll impact their home in that way. So it's so important to do this work. It's like mothering ourselves. And it's the best job of all.
I absolutely adore you. I have goosebumps right now. Like just listening to you speak is so inspirational from a place of just such a frequency that I don't think many of us embody these days. And I think about this project that I started. It came from a place of pure surrender. Pure surrender. There was no planning. There was literally one afternoon I was journaling. It dropped in. This pure little nugget of wisdom just dropped in. It was something beyond my wildest expectations. Never would I have predicted that this was something that I would even attempt to pursue. And here we are.
Let me ask you this. Have you read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic?
No, but it is on my list.
Okay. I mean, I definitely had to visit it a couple times. The first time I read it, I was like, meh. But recently I reread it. And what you reminded me there was she talks about this idea that ideas come to us outside ourselves.
Yeah.
And they come to many people at once. And so just like back in the day, artists would have a muse. They would have someone outside themselves who would inspire them to create. It's almost like we have these little muse ideas, and they hit a bunch of little humans at once. And it's like whoever grabs it quickest is the one that gets it, is the one that gets to pursue it. So when I hear you say that, I'm not surprised because you are most likely, well, this is, again, the holistic work I do. I have a feeling you were probably in ovulation during your cycle. I don't know if you cycle sync. That's a whole nother conversation.
I would have to check. I do. So I would have to check.
Actually, you know what? I take that back. Because when it actually hit, you were probably in like menstrual or something where you could really be still and quiet and hear the idea.
Yeah.
Right? But then you might have been moving right into ovulation because you took it and you ran with it fairly quickly. So just that's a side note. But it's like you have to be in a place of stillness and quiet and present to receive that little idea, and also own the fact that it's not yours to keep. It's only yours if you go for it. And if not, someone else gets it because it continues on. Like if you ever talk to someone who is doing something that you're like, I had that idea like months ago or years ago.
Yeah.
Because they're not ours. Like they're outside ourselves. It's kind of a fun idea. It's just, I loved when you said that. It reminded me.
It's so funny because my husband's going to listen to this episode and he's going to be like, why are you talking about me? But he always comes to me. He's like, oh, I had this idea and then look at this person now. I had this idea years ago. I'm like, grab one and go. Just try it.
Yes.
So honey, this is for you. Grab one and go.
Exactly. Because otherwise it's going to continue to circulate. And whoever has the audacity and the courage, it's theirs.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I think a big part, and I want to touch on support system a little bit, because I think for us as women to feel worthy of sitting still and settling in, there's a narrative that we have to like have everything figured out or under control or taken care of. So I think asking for help is a big part of that as well. So I'm curious from your experience after the birth of your son and his loss, and even throughout just the earlier transitions into motherhood with your daughters, like what did your support team look like? And what does it look like now? Like, how do you give yourself the time and the silence and the space that you need to continue this work?
Yeah. So there's a few things I think we could touch on here. One of which is I'm a big proponent for using your throat chakra and really asking for support. And in the smallest of ways, sometimes even I'll lead a free online breathwork session, let's say. I'll say in that communication to anyone who's attending, use your throat chakra. Tell somebody that you're doing this. Ask them if they can watch your children for 1 hour while you do this. And then while you're doing it, tell them, don't come in the room. Like literally be as specific as possible. Because here's what I have found. The people around us who are truly our support system, who hold us up, they want to help. They want to support you, but they don't know how. When you vocalize that, when you tell them, hey, this really means a lot to me. If I could just have this 1 hour to do this while you tend to the kids, I would be really grateful. Especially, I feel like with spouses, they're like, sure, they want to help. They just don't think you want the help or they don't know how. So I think that that's a top priority. I will say for myself, and this is like a much larger conversation and something that I get into a lot within my work, is knowing my human design. Do you know your human design?
I don't. I'm not familiar.
Okay. We can chat about this after. But basically, there is something called the human design. There's only 5 human designs in the world. And it's not like the Enneagram or any personality test because it's based on the date, time, location that you're born. So it is set in the stars, whatever your human design is. It can't change. Yeah. And so I am what's called a projector in human design, which is probably about 20% of the population. So a lesser amount of the population. But as a projector, I actually don't have a lot of my own energy. And so learning this was amazing and eye-opening because I had been living most of my life like a generator, which is most of the population, which means you just have a lot of energy to like go, go, go. And as an achiever, as a go-getter, as an A student, you know, I was like living my life in a way that I actually was not designed and feeling really burnt out a lot of the time. Like saying yes to things that later I would be like, why did I say yes to that? Or committing to a full day of something when I really only have 3 to 4 good hours in me. So knowing that changed my life because now what I do is I spend a majority of my morning, probably 3 hours of it, just getting into my zone, doing my rituals, taking my walks, being out in nature, pulling cards, reading something that touches my soul, journaling. Because when I get myself to a state of high frequency and true alignment, I only need to work for like 2 to 3 hours because it's such good work.
Yeah.
And so I share this because I don't need to work 40, 50, 60 hours. Actually, I would be pretty useless if I did, which makes a lot of sense why I wasn't a very good employee. Yeah. Because my body is not designed that way. Meant to. And so now what I do is I only work maybe 10 to 15 hours a week max, which means I have 10 to 15 hours that I need to use my throat chakra and ask for support, which in my opinion feels less overwhelming than being like, oh, I wish I had this many days off or, you know, like whatever schedule that we create to fulfill our to-do list. And so to me, knowing my design, knowing the ritual I need for the morning to get me into the state of creativity, knowing I only need a few hours of really good work to make really big impact gives me so much more spaciousness to be with my kids, to do things I actually want to be doing. And to not just be filling my time, quote unquote, that I got a sitter and have to like use every second of the time I have to get something done. That was more draining because then my kids would come home or I would pick up my kids and I would be like fairly useless to them.
Yeah.
So that holistic approach of really understanding this is who I am. This is how I'm designed. Oh, this is how I'm meant to actually live, work, and be in the world. That's the ultimate support system for yourself and to be able to ask those that you need to ask for support.
Yeah. I mean, that's truly incredible because I relate this to my own personal experience and I'm so going to pick your brain on this topic because when I have these calls and I have preliminary calls with some women that possibly could participate in this project, I'm always so lit up at the end of it. I feel as though I've just climbed the highest mountain and I'm breathing like the cleanest, crispest air. The feeling is so different. And then there are days where I feel like I have to get all of these things done because I'm also taking care of the house and I'm taking care of this child who doesn't sit down. Like I've had to like playpen her in one room so I can like have eyes on her at all times and I know where she is, So there's a lot of pressure to complete all of these things. And when I do get this time, and I think I probably mentioned to you, Friday is my only day with childcare for a full day. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do with all this time? So it's really quite miraculous if you can slow down, tune into a frequency, and really complete the tasks that are meant to be done and trust that everything else will get done when it's meant to get done. Takes the pressure off a bit. And then that way you're not then asking, hey, mother-in-law, who is my childcare on Friday, so thank you. How many days a week can you watch her now? Because I have all of these things starting to generate and I want to do it. But really, if I can settle in and focus only on the tasks that need to get done, everything just feels more in alignment.
Yeah.
It's quite
you answered
beautiful.
it. Yeah. I was going to say, feels great to me. And I think that the thing that every single one of us, again, is designed so differently. So for me, if I were to sit down and be like, okay, I have the whole day, no joke, Emily, I'll sit down and be like, so what do I do? It's like everything escapes me in that moment. But up until that moment, I was like, if I could just have a whole day to myself, I would do this, this, and this. So a to-do list honestly just doesn't work for me. My brain just does not, because if I was to sit down and try to spend the 6 hours that I get with childcare crossing off this list, I would be so depleted. I would be so depleted and I would probably feel like I didn't actually get anything done.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that to really understand your design, to really understand the time of the month for you. I mean, this could be a whole call in and of itself, but we're not made to run on a 24-hour cycle the way a man is. We're really on a 28-ish day cycle. And so if you really look at that, if you're able to look at your cycle, you understand you only have about 10 to 15 really good days in a month, which is kind of disheartening because a lot of the time is spent in luteal and in menstrual where you're not meant to go give the speech or show up at a party. Like sometimes this is what's so funny. People will say like, oh, I committed to this thing and now I just don't feel like it. But I look at that now and I'm like, oh yeah, this time of the month, like I know I won't be feeling it because I'll be in luteal. And so can I just push that for 2 weeks out? Yeah. And I think the only reason that we, there are multiple reasons that we kind of go, oh, this sounds like too much. A, we don't have a cycle. B, we're still breastfeeding or we're pregnant or any of those things, or we just don't have a cycle that's normal. Or it's like, it's almost like too much of a commitment to self because we want to work around other people's schedules and we want to be so easygoing and sure, I'll do this for you. And sure, mother-in-law, if these days are best for you, I'll take what I can get. Yeah. In reality, that's not helping us. Like it would actually be better for you to understand the 10 good days you get and use your sitter maybe in most of those days instead of this weekly idea or this monthly idea of a schedule. So I don't know. I've just kind of flipped a switch on all that because if you're going to live holistically, if you're going to think of the whole, if I'm going to really use my mind, body, spirit to be all of me, I have to understand all of those things and use them to my advantage. And then the beautiful part is when you do, you don't feel like a crazy lady. Like you don't feel like a mom who's trying to like balance it all. Like, and I know the conversation is like, there's no such thing as balance. And I'm not saying there is. There's definitely not. We know that, right? Yeah. But I also don't want to villainize that either because there can be, if you look at like a scale, yes, one's a little heavier than the other, but it can feel really good and balanced. It's like, when you're on like a teeter-totter with your kids and like you're not like equal, but like you're redistributing the weight, but it still feels good. Like you're not scared for their safety.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that's what it's like for us. And that can feel like balance. Like that can be just enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, truly incredible. I think there's so much that is glossed over in particular our society, right? We should be like functioning in a certain way. There's these like archaic stereotypes and beliefs on how things should be done and expectations. And one thing I'm curious your thoughts on and your experience on it is you have a business in particular with your husband. Sounds like there's a lot of reprioritization and internal clarity and awareness on what works for you. And it comes back to this holistic approach and really where you're most aligned. How does your husband fit into all of that? I mean, have you always found to be in a rhythm with him? And how have you navigated kind of your growth in this journey alongside your relationship with him?
Well,
it's a tough one.
Actually, it's tough because I'm almost judging what I'm about to say because I know it's not going to be well received by all, but I have a really good marriage. And he truly is my soulmate. And here's the thing. Losing a child basically puts everything else into perspective.
Yeah.
And so there's days when I get angry or frustrated or why can't he do this or that? And then I don't mean to be morbid, but like I remind myself like my child's on my mantle.
Yeah.
And so I know that's like a lot maybe to hear, but it really just grounds me.
Yeah.
And reminds me that like I was given this man for a reason. And we were given the gift of each other and the gift of that experience for a reason.
Yeah.
So anything that I think is important or means something now in the physical, like it's just not true. It's just sort of this story again that we've learned that someone is supposed to be a certain way and we're not. And so I really feel like once we experienced that loss together, it just changed our entire perspective of the world and how so little matters. I mean, we just tend to one another and our soul's mission differently.
Yeah.
And so we spend a lot of time working on our marriage. It's almost a non-negotiable that we do 2, 3, 4 date nights a month. Last year we did 3 trips, just the two of us.
Yeah.
And I know that someone listening is probably like, what the F? Like, I can't even get my husband to like do the dishes. But that can be the truth for us too, right?
Yeah.
In different ways. And we've just learned to, again, speak up about it. And our communication is so strong.
Yeah.
And I also always inform him where I'm at in my cycle. So he knows what to expect and when to expect it. Because there's times of the month where I'm like, let's go upstairs now. Yeah. And then there's times where I'm like, I just need my book, get away from me. And it's just, now there's no judgment around it because we understand it and we talk about it and we've just put it out into the open. Yeah. Whereas I think what we did for so long and many couples do is like, we hold on to the smallest things, the smallest actions, words, comments, the ways we show up, the ways we don't show up, and then create this story around it. That's not true. A lot of it is just literally made up in our minds. And so we just don't do any of that anymore because we realize there's no time for any of that anymore because we want to have a ridiculously good marriage and a ridiculously good love story. And being each other's partner in that capacity makes the business stuff, like, I don't even think about that stuff. Yeah. I know that probably sounds odd because it probably seems like a lot, but I think that when the communication is strong in one area, it's strong in all areas. So if there's any area that it's not strong in, give yourself some grace, give your partner some grace, and just understand that that's just good information for you. Like, that's kind of how I go through life now. And I've learned a lot of that from my own mentor, which is anytime something quote unquote bad happens or disagreeable happens or negative happens, anything that I cannot let be neutral, which really could be neutral, I just look at that and I'm like, wow, that's great information. Okay,
Yeah.
What am I going to do with this? Oh, I'm going to go talk to my husband about this. Oh, I'm going to go share this here. Oh, I'm going to ask my kids for some more time alone and make sure they have something set up so they can have fun too. It's just like,
Yes.
it's all information. We don't have to make it good or bad. We can just keep it neutral. And I think the neutralizer there is like, it's everything. It strengthens all relationships with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends, everyone. Anytime you feel resistant, any pushback, any defensiveness is the first act of war, period. Anytime you aren't defensive and you just kind of go to yourself like, okay, how would this feel instead? Or how could I accept this? Or how could I have this conversation? It makes everything so much easier.
Yeah. I think the piece that you said, right, in terms of the minute you get defensive or if the lines of communication aren't open, it just keeps popping into my head. Assumptions are like the biggest barrier because now you're creating these stories in your own head. And that is something that I am becoming very aware of. And especially now that when you have kids, you're like, I don't want to be fighting with you all the time. So like, what am I actually thinking right now? Like, what assumption am I making about you right now?
Yeah.
It's probably not true.
Totally. There's two things I want to say there. The first is like just a tiny version of Abraham Hicks that I use all the time of her methods is just like, who would I be without that thought? I say that to myself all the time. So like, let's do an example. Like, my husband doesn't want to support my business today because he's not giving me this hour to do this call with Emily.
Yeah.
Like, who would I be without that thought? Oh, I would just be here having this call, not worried about what my husband thinks or is not thinking and enjoying my time with Emily. Oh, great. You know, it's like we literally create so much stress on ourselves.
Yeah.
And the other part of that came through that I wanted to say is that I know myself so well that I think most of my work is actually just understanding myself. Like that's literally 90% of my work these days because everything else flows so much easier from there. But what I wanted to say was when you spoke about how like, and then you add the kids on top of that, it's a lot, right? I know myself. I need a massive amount of time alone, whether that's for my business, for my marriage, for my kids. I thrive when I have stillness, alone time to just totally be, whether I get to just sit and read a book with a glass of wine or like, I don't know, anything. Like I need that. And so I'm so clear about that with my husband where I'm like, hey, listen, because I kind of had asked the question prior to the call about like, how do you prioritize your well-being time?
Yeah.
And I don't fit it into my schedule. I fit my schedule around it. So it is typically the first thing I put in my calendar because I know if I take care of myself, if I get my quiet time, my stillness time, I am the best freaking wife. I am the most amazing mother. Like everybody wins. And even my husband will say that to me now. He's like, babe, just tend to you because when you're good, we're all good. I'm like, it's true though. You know, it's so true. So if you're feeling out of balance at all in that department, I would just sit with like, well, how am I not tending to myself in the rhythm that I actually need and desire?
Yeah.
Because going through your life, trying to be all the things for all the people and like holding it all on your own and still trying to believe that like you have a good marriage when you haven't actually had any alone time or that you're a great mother, but like you're just going a little nutso when you're with your kids, which is totally normal. It's like, well, what are you not tending to there?
Yeah.
Good information. Thank you for that information.
Yeah. And that is truly inspirational because I think if we can all give ourselves just a little bit of love back, I can just imagine how much more I will have to give when I have something to give. Because until then, I don't really have much, right? So
when the cup is full, you can pour it into another cup.
That's it. So see, I'm justified in wanting to be alone for a little bit. Yeah, I'm very much the same way. I enjoy alone time. I get up an hour before everybody else in the morning. That alarm is 5:30. It is tough, but for me, it is the most precious hour of my day.
Yeah. And I think that is a beautiful start. And if you are a morning person, more power to you. But I did that for a while too. And I realized like, okay, that is good. I do want that hour, but the morning isn't when it feels the best for me. So how can I ask for an hour somewhere else? How can I get a little more support? And if any part of you is like, oh, but for me to do that, I'm going to have to spend money. And then that means like, there's a whole conversation around that. Well, is it worth the conversation or not?
Right.
Are you worth the $15 an hour for your sanity or not? You know? And I think that that's a very honest, vulnerable conversation that you have to have. But if you are drowning, don't you ask for like a life vest? Like, don't you ask for some help? Like, wouldn't you scream, save me? Like, you would. So like, let's do that now before you get to that point,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like we can go down this conversation for another hour if we had time. And maybe we will. Maybe we will do another follow-up episode. I feel like there's so many things that you've shed some light on that intrigue me so much. So perhaps we will have to do another one. I do want to give you a quick couple of seconds to tease your podcast. You have one coming up. I would love for you to just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm relaunching a brand new podcast. And it's really just this very safe, vulnerable space to have conversations around what it looks like to be our own healer. And I'm really excited about it. The conversations I've had so far have been, what it looks like healing through divorce, what it looks like healing through the loss of parents, healing through a chronic illness, and just really bringing these very private, lonely journeys out into the open. Because what I've found is that when you are grieving or healing or experiencing any type of loss that you're moving through, what honestly happens is you don't just lose that loved one, you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to have these conversations and let women especially know that like we're not alone on this healing journey, because it often leads to the greatest light. Like our work in the world, the good stuff, it's typically sprung from that place, right? Like Rumi says, the wound is where the light enters you. And so I just want to have conversations around like, what did it look like when you were in that wound versus what light have you found from that place? And I know for myself personally, this fall, I'm launching a healing affirmation deck.
Wonderful.
I'm really excited about it. And again, that project, like it's not mine, it's not my work, it's Ben's work. But it's really about how when we are in our feminine, when we are very deeply connected to our bodies, and when we allow ourselves to move through loss in a way that just wasn't modeled for us at all growing up as little girls, it's like there's just so much light from that place. So it's been really cool to incorporate the deck with the podcast, and everyone's been very excited about it. So yes, thank you. Thank you for letting me share that.
You're welcome. I wish you so much luck with that. And I look forward to following along and being a part of that journey alongside of that. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your story and all of these wonderful pearls of wisdom. And I hope that the women listening have found some level of comfort in knowing that there is light and you can find alignment and it is waiting for us. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If anyone listening is interested in learning more about Lauryn, please check out our show notes below or on our website at projectmompodcasts.com. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please help us out and leave a review wherever you listen, and consider sharing with your friends. If you're interested in learning a bit more about the project or want to share your story, please visit our website linked in our show notes below.